Well, good morning. No beautiful sunrise yet this morning. It is only, let me check. Well, it's 8:45, so. But always dark up here. And then, yeah, the further north you go, the longer you spend in darkness. So I'm gonna head over. I got a dude dropped off his trailer yesterday, wanted to fill up these 3 totes, and then he was gonna pick it up today. So first thing I'm gonna do is go over and see if my molasses pump will even pump. It's only about -20. It didn't pump yesterday, which was kind of interesting because the molasses itself doesn't freeze, but when it's in a really small, like a 1-inch line or an 1.5-inch line or something, it gets so thick that it doesn't really flow. So of course we had -35 for like 20 hours. So you are asking quite a bit out of a fluid to be able to flow and handle that kind of cold. But I think worst case scenario, all I'll have to do is just grab a heat gun and heat up this black line feeding into this little pump, and then that should get it flowing, because it's still quite, what's the word? It still flows coming out of those big tanks. That much volume doesn't really get all that thick. So we will. It's only about -19 now, so we'll get going. I'll grab the heat gun, maybe a little bit of a tarp, and just throw it over that pump quick. Grab the backhoe, go grab one of his totes, and by the time I get everything set up, I expect it'll go. I'm gonna fill his 3 totes. Then I got a guy coming. He's got like 60 lick tanks on his trailer. He brought them up from Lethbridge. We decided to get somebody to do that for us because we don't have a trailer, and really don't have the time to make that trip. It's quite a journey. So, but anyways, I'm gonna find everything I need and I'm gonna get with it. Okay, well, we're well underway here. That didn't take much convincing at all. I did put my heat gun on that pump a little bit, and it didn't actually need very much. So obviously this responds quite rapidly to the temperature change because it's pumping pretty good here now. So we'll get I gotta fill these 3 tanks up for a guy right away, and then I think we're just gonna keep filling totes until our tanks are empty. These first 3 are almost full. The last one only has about a ton in it. And then hopefully get another load on the road here in the new year. I also got some bags to make, but since I'm only one man, I can't run all 3 units, the tractor, the backhoe, and the other tractor at once. So until I get some assistance, I will just fill the totes. It is supposed to be warming up all day. It's supposed to start snowing. It's I wish we only had spruce trees. Poplar trees suck because they're really nice when they're all loaded with snow like that. Pretty good scenery for your place of work. One of the perks of farming, I guess. Well, it's 11 o'clock. Molasses totes are filling, and we just unloaded the courier that brought up our lick tanks. So that's some lick tanks right there. We had ordered about 30, so that's 16. And to our surprise, that's how many he brought. So this plus what's out there, so certainly more than 30. I think there's about 70 tanks here. So I'm not sure who made that error. It's all for the best. Some of these tanks, I guess, are destined for further north in Alberta, actually, and then into northern BC. So we'll get them unloaded here. I didn't put those last 2 stacks in the shop because I still need to be able to fit my backhoe in here. So once I get some space cleaned up here, room to move around and let these tanks, because they're plastic, right? Plastic minus 30 don't go together. So we'll get them thawed out, we'll get the lids off, we'll get them organized, find out exactly who wanted what, and then get them packaged back up and line up some more hot shots, or maybe those guys are coming to get their tanks themselves. I don't know what they're doing. But so now it's definitely not as cold as it was the last few days, but it's still about minus 20. And a good rule of thumb, if you're gonna leave your equipment outside, like you know, we have this mill and stuff, before you run it up to speed and before you run it under load, you're gonna wanna kick everything in. A couple things in the winter, you wanna make sure it's not frozen anywhere. And gearboxes have oil in them. Those aren't self-lubing chains, but they need oil on them. And all the bearings got grease in them. So that's all tight, right? It's all tight, it's all stiff. And unless you want to be grabbing your snowsuit and laying underneath of that machine, fixing shear pins and busted chains and broken, cracked oil seals, or pulling it into the shop and doing it in there, whatever you got on your farm, it's best to get this stuff warmed up, loosened up before you run it under load and at a higher RPM. So tractors and stuff like that too, nothing. You know, you shouldn't be revving anything up too cold. You know, you got to give it its time to warm up, just like us. We wake up and we want to get the legs stretched and everything before we get working. So I'm going to I've got these tractors running. I'm gonna get my scale on here, and I'm gonna start making some bags, and then we'll see how the day goes. Well, good evening. It's 7:30 here now. I just finished up waiting for one guy to come pick up a bag of feed that he's been waiting on for about a week. So, but in the meantime, while I got a question for the few people that watch this. If you're in the workforce and you're in a job that certainly impacts other people, do you think you're good at your job? You know, are you good at your job? And maybe you're retired, maybe you're watching this and you're not in the workforce yet, in school or whatever. What's your experience with employees who impact other people? And why do I ask this question? So today we got a load of 70 tanks. The last time we got a load of 10 tanks. Of all of the stuff, we were missing one lid. We were missing 4 wheels, 2 brackets, and a package of hardware. So we could only build 8 tanks out of the 10 while we waited on parts. I paid $1,800 to get that load shipped up here. They did throw some other things on the load, so it wasn't a total disaster. But so after paying $1,800 to get that shipped up here from Lethbridge, I had to get a friend of mine from Westlock, who's also involved in the molasses game. While he was down in Lethbridge, he picked up those missing parts, brought them to his place. I drove down that day or the next day, picked them up. So you see how it impacted me. So it was no shocker. I was supposed to get about 56 tanks, I think. 70 showed up. Now that should be a good thing because we are up north. Shipping is always a problem, so the more we can get on the load, the better. However, they forgot to ship 50 brackets. That's 12 and a half tanks now we can't build of the big tanks. So kind of a frustrating thing. I mean, it doesn't do any good to get mad and kick and scream and throw your hands in the air and pout about it. It's just you know, this is the reality of it. So I mean, who gets the blame? I don't know. You shouldn't really be pointing fingers, but unfortunately, you know, the guy that was doing the loading probably gets the blame. I mean, should be fairly simple. If the stuff is shipped in boxes, you know, apparently the wheels come in these boxes. The brackets, they come in a similar box. The lids are all stacked up on top of the tanks. So as far as counting lids and tanks, that's just simple. I think they're in stacks of 7 tanks, 7 lids. I don't know how many come in the box. I found since I started being involved a little more in like the logistical side of things. I'll admit I like making the feed and grinding it and being dirty and dusty and whatever. That doesn't bother me. But as this feed thing got bigger and we got to the molasses and we just started getting, more and more, doing more and more, we had to do more and more on the phone. And so over the last 5 years, I've actually found the more I deal with people, the worse it's getting. So, I guess what are other people's experiences? I had a video yesterday where I kind of ragged on some of the parts people, and several of you agreed and have had similar issues. So what about general employees, like just across the board? Like, are people doing as good a job as they should or as they can? And because I don't think they are. And I'll say why I think it is. I think people are depressed. I think they're beaten down. They're discouraged because no matter how high your wage is, I don't care, right? There's always a guy that's bragging he makes $60 an hour or 70, whatever, right? I don't really care what your hourly rate is. You're not making enough to afford to live in this crazy system that we've created over the last few years. I mean, inflation has chipped away at your income, so you are, unless you're making, triple digits an hour, it's, and I think, unfortunately for most people, it's just not there. Yeah. So what's the point of, when you get up in the morning and you got to go to your, $24 an hour job, and it doesn't, you go to the grocery store and meat's $34 a pound, for a decent cut of meat, you get discouraged. But I don't know what to do about it. I think that is the problem. I think that's a really, really big problem. I certainly am not an advocate for raising the minimum wage, because the minute you raise the minimum wage, the dude with the monocle and the top hat, he knows that because he was involved in setting that minimum wage raise. That's he was instrumental in doing that, and he owns all the properties, so he just raises the rent and he raises the groceries and he just raises all that anyway. So he takes it. So I don't know what to do about it. What do you think about it? Are people discouraged? Are they depressed? If so, why? And do you think people are doing as good a job as they can? I don't. Unfortunately, I don't think it's the people's fault. However, I do wish that we could get that, get that excitement back, where we're excited to get up and go to work, no matter what we're doing. I mean, I was just crawling around in the snowbank all day with oat dust and barley dust all over my face, and I don't know, I'm kind of chipper about it. But anyways, as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you all on the next one.